you're delivering something like that, it gets a lot of attention. Chaos consumes capacity. Aviation is not for the faint of heart, but that is my mission.
You've served 36 years in aerospace with a career spanning the senior levels of leadership at Boeing. What set yourself apart?
Accelerate your readiness. How can you lead strong, come to me when you need to, and then execute? I was working with the team and everybody knew it was just not going well. I had just had enough. I just didn't feel right. Then I went to work and I don't know that I shined. I don't know that I was a very good leader. What got me out of that was...
It's amazing to have you here, supporting together at this point on our journey. We're working every day to strengthen ourselves so we can strengthen you, the strong links, as you continue to lift others and show up at your best for those who matter most. It would help us more than you know. Please hit that subscribe button. It'll only take a second, it's free, and it allows us to keep building this together so that we can keep showing up for you. Thank you. Craig, you've served 36 years in aerospace with a career spanning the senior levels of leadership at Boeing. You've served as interim vice president of operations for new products. You've led site transformations across Boeing Salt Lake. You've assisted in the 737 MAX and COVID recovery efforts. You've developed safe, lean, and innovative manufacturing systems. You've championed the integration of manufacturing in product development, earning accolades such as the Weber State University's Distinguished Alumni Award. And you continue to contribute nationally through board leadership in secure quantum services, tech innovation, and education. You've certainly led a distinguished and impactful aerospace career. How would you describe the person sitting here, who you really are?
Well, thanks, Sean. I'm really pleased to be here and support your journey, too. I learned early that aviation is not for the faint of heart, but that is my mission. I'm professionally driven by kind of three things. One is, what is the mission? Two is strong leadership. And three is just those effective production systems.
Right.
And so to do all of that, we need people that are capable, strong, and ready. And my mission now is to make sure that I can accelerate their readiness and preparation.
It's a wonderful mission statement, personal mission statement, and it's a genuine pleasure to have you here. We've obviously interacted in the past, and you've supported development of the workforce, and I couldn't be happier to have you as one of the inaugural guests on the StrongLink podcast.
Great.
It's amazing. So why don't we start here? Your story. Specifically, I'd like to know that moment you knew aviation was it. And even Boeing, you were like, aviation, Boeing, this is going to be me. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, it started really early. I remember I have visions of kind of the moon landing.
Okay.
And I was young, so I don't know if it was pictures or exactly what it is, but that seeded kind of the beginnings of a passion. But then I was in 6th grade, and my school did a field trip to Hill Air Force Base in Ogden, Utah. That's where I grew up. And the meaning of that day was that the space shuttle was going to land at Hill Air Force Base. And I was very passionate about that. And it was just, I've been watching it on TV, and I was kind of ready for it. So here it comes. Space shuttle landed. But not only did that space shuttle land, but it was being carried by a Boeing 747. And I was just committed right there. So that was kind of the beginnings. And that took me into engineering and on my journey.
That is anyone who heard that, I'm sure an image comes to their mind. It was the same with me, that the 747, the shuttle on its back, what an image, right? And I'm still convinced that shaped a generation. Boeing in that way, which is amazing.
I guarantee it did.
Your journey, did you, within Boeing, starting into your professional career, did you always know you want to get up to that senior leader level, you wanted to drive strategy? Did you always know that was your path, or did it occur to you at some point, let's say?
No, I knew early.
Okay.
So it was absolutely Boeing, absolutely aviation, but I knew it was also executive
right
leadership.
from the get-go.
And I knew that before I graduated my undergraduate degree.
Okay.
We had a class that was kind of like, what's next? So you're going to have your career. And I just, becoming a leader really took hold very early for me. And we studied, the Fords and even Boeing at the time. And I just knew that I wanted to be a senior leader in aerospace.
Leadership seems to be something that was very prevalent with you early on.
Yeah.
What sparked it? Even in your teenage years or something, what was it? Was it sports? Was it, some members have got into cadets, for example, or scouts. What made you think of yourself as a leader or naturally wanting to gravitate to those roles early on? What would you say?
I think I considered myself very shy engineer, probably the shyest coming out of Ogden, Utah. And it was a stretch for me to be a leader. And so I had to figure out how to go do that. I think that was part of my journey.
Right.
So being an engineer, that was first and foremost at the time, but I knew there was more. And it was probably the people that I grew up with. My father was, a great inspiration to me. We had a neighbor, he was the head of the Air Force Association.
Okay.
And he was also a volunteer policeman, and he was always doing something. So he was kind of leading the neighborhood, leading the city we grew up in. And interestingly enough, I always saw him giving blood, and so I've been on my journey as well to donate blood for the last probably 20 years. And I sat on the board of trustees for BloodWorks Northwest, which is blood donation and blood research. So that was just early on. I think it was leadership potential and getting more things done. And inspiring people, and really being empathetic to the journey. I think I learned that, one of my first management assignments inside the Boeing company. But then early on, I got a management assignment. And it was not with engineers, but it was with operations people supporting the engineers. And then we had some issues in the factory, and so they asked me to go out in the factory and actually run a production crew. And so I'd never done anything like that before.
From an engineering cell running
From
production.
an engineering side, yep. And so, I had grown up around, family and the farm, and so it wasn't really strange. I just hadn't done it before. So. But when you go out with a group of mechanics, and they're just awesome, and their intent is to build the best airplanes in the world. This was the 737 at the time. And we had a few configuration issues, and so we slowed production down, and we were doing a lot of rework. This was late 90s. And it was really quite chaotic and kind of unorganized. And I remember I had 30 people. That was my first assignment.
That's your first assignment, 30
assignment.
people.
And they weren't doing the normal work in production. They were doing, essentially it was repair, removing things from the airplane that were out of configuration and putting things in new. So of the 30 people, I had 2 people in the production cell that I was managing. I had 2 people at the delivery center, which is a flight away, so you had to finish the airplane and fly it. And then people were strewn out in between. And so I took a look at that, and it was like, we're installing things, and then there's paperwork to uninstall them. But to do that later, you have to uninstall a whole bunch of other things and install. It's just And so I really got empathetic for these mechanics, and they were just passionate, and they were just that was their job, and so they were good. But it was like, why are we doing that? It just seems so inefficient, so unsafe. And safety. That's kind of where it started with me. Was how can these people be safer or more safe in the environment they're working in? And that's where I first started to witness what strong leaders looked like. There was 3 in particular. One was kind of flight controls, one was electrical, and one was kind of structures. And you watch them take care of everybody. And to watch people, this was right after wing-to-body join, so you have to get inside the wings, and as you're aware, and confined space, masks, and they're cleaning all of the joints from the inside. So someone would go in there with a mask on, hot, and they would work for hours. And they would come out, and they had probably the best disposition, and they did a great job. And so how can you make that job safer? But how can you support them more? And so these other leaders would always, first thing in the morning, they would know our position, where all these people were, the work. They'd know how to get them parts, and they had great attitudes. They got frustrated, and I think that was my job, was to try to remove barriers so they could continue with theirs.
I definitely want to dive into Boeing Salt Lake. Okay. But even if I take a step back, let's say, what would be a dream team for you to lead? Anything, anywhere, anytime. If you were to look at history, current state, even future state, any program, jet program, aerospace, doesn't matter. What would be a dream team that you would love to lead to accomplish that effect? You
have to pick favorites.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get to pick favorites. What would it be?
Yeah, I can't pick favorite kids either.
That's...
I won't even make one up. I've had wonderful learning experiences in every group that I've led. But I was just so fortunate to end up at my first executive assignment in Boeing Salt Lake.
Right.
And I didn't need to go in and make changes. I needed to go in and listen. And this team, it was actually a former McDonnell Douglas site.
Okay.
And so in the merger in 97, 98, when Boeing and McDonnell Douglas merged, this team came with. And there was a lot of discussion about what to do with them. But this site was just one of the most engaged workforce teams that I've ever seen. And that was noticed at the senior executive leadership level. And so, the Boeing had put the McDonnell Douglas parts kind of out to pasture. The MD, AD 90, 717 after the merger.
Right.
And so this Boeing Salt Lake built fuselage sections. So they had done heavy structure before. But as the last one would roll out, the Boeing leadership would just go find work internal to Boeing somewhere and ship it down there and have them learn and put it together. Wow. And this is where this site learned lean. Okay. They learned leadership. And they had to. And so pretty soon the factory was filled with, we used to call it pots and pans, but it was machines, it was NC machines and brake presses and just great stuff. Right. That, when I got there, I just got to get my hands on and learn from this team. And they were great leaders, great team members. One of the first things that I noticed at Boeing Salt Lake, again, just a great example where I learned. I mean, I think I led them well, but I learned a lot too. We hosted one of the chief technology officers at Boeing. He came through to see the site because there were some great expansion opportunities going on. We had, Boeing Salt Lake was metals. They do the flight deck for all the Boeing commercial models. But there was some open space, and it was like, well, how should we fill that space? And the 787 at the time needed to gear up in composites, and so we competed for the 787 vertical fin, and then ultimately the 787 horizontal stabilizer fabrication and assembly. But as we were doing this, we had engineers, and it's a smaller site, so everybody reported to me, but we had engineers and mechanics working together. So as we were touring this chief technology officer around, we were showing him all this assembly activity. He turned to the mechanic and he said, "Hey, if you have a problem with engineering, what do you do?" Now, we were in Utah, and I think he was assuming the engineers were in Puget Sound. Right. And my mechanic turned to the guy next to him and he said, "Well, this is my engineer right here." Oh. So for me, it was one of the first times to see the engineers and the mechanics working together and really designing it one time. Instead of having a design, sending it through fabrication or assembly, and then having to fix all of the issues. And so, I learned really early on, and it became this passion of mine, to get production system knowledge as early in the process as you possibly can.
So, Craig, I'd like to bring it back to you and your journey. So specifically, here's a question. Looking back, 36 years in aerospace, continuing to do so, what drove your success? if I were to ask, looking back, was there anything you did differently? Of course, you worked your way up to the senior executive level. So what set yourself apart? And I'm going to challenge humility here, and I would want to pull that from you. What do you think some of those things might have been?
You know, I've been pretty good over the years understanding my core values.
Okay.
Relationships to me are very important. With the right relationships, you can accomplish significant things, which means you have to appreciate the people and the journey. I have one friend, common friend of ours, that he taught me, that to care about people, you actually have to care about people.
Right.
And so I've never taken that for granted, really. So I really want to understand the team, what they bring, what motivates them, how we can develop them even more. So fundamentally, I want to get to know the team. And in every role that I've had, I've just tried to spend as much time with people just to help them along their journey as well. And so that just continued to pay dividends, I think, for me. Certainly the 3 years at Boeing Salt Lake, implementing the vertical fin activity, the horizontal stabilizer activity, there were things that they were far beyond me. We had to build 2 new buildings. One was a paint facility. The other one was leased, but we had to work with that group to build the building and then put all our stuff in it. And then ultimately, we had to work with the state, and we found a 850,000 square foot building. It was built, but then we had to move all the composites production system in there, and that's significant.
Of course.
I had never done anything that large before, but the Boeing company has. So engaging that team, learning who they are and how they program manage, and then put that into my management system.
Right.
That really took shape. And, Boeing Salt Lake was just very successful. And I was asked after that to go back to the Puget Sound and work with the electrical business. Okay. Another business unit, much larger, but hadn't been invested in years. Because it was always one of those business units that you could offload.
Oh, I see.
Until you really couldn't offload, because there was just too much inherent knowledge in doing the work, installing the work, rebuilding, fixing things that were going wrong. So it became a large business unit. So
interesting. Yeah.
So now I'm coming into another world where I've got to learn another whole skill, but still lead a larger business unit and get to know the people, build the relationships, and this was about probably 6 months when I got there until the Air Force tanker was coming through. Okay. And still, I think you can see in the press that has several issues. Okay. But we could see him. We could see him coming, and so now we're in a leadership mode of how do we get in front of this? How do we prepare the team? How do we find the strong links on the team to go work with the engineering teams to situate going forward? So I think that was a journey, but that was my story. So leading that business unit, and because of what we found there in multiple areas, the tanker and 737 MAX, we found that you need to have this production system knowledge earlier in product development.
If, let's say, Boeing Salt Lake, you get the chance to walk into a room or a team or a work center, and you're able to see this one person that to you embodies what a strong link is, and this is the person that you would tap them on the shoulder, hold them back for a minute, and let them know this is how I see you, and this is why. What would the attributes be for that person in your mind?
I've mentioned a couple already, but reliable.
Okay. And how would you define reliability? Is it delivering, or is it understanding the bigger picture? What would you say?
A bit of both, but it's also how you deliver too. I love the strong link phrase. If I break that into two, the strong could be what they're doing and how they're doing, but the link is critical. So Toyota lean tool, but I always used OBEA, which really only means big room. But on that room is your alignment to larger missions, larger objectives of the corporation. And then there's a wall for what's our goals, what's our metrics, what's our numbers need to be. And then there's a wall for what's all the plan. So that link and reliable is help me with all of that.
Right.
And I don't need to be micromanaging. I'm probably not good at micromanaging. And so how can you lead strong, come to me when you need to, and then execute on this? So that's the reliable aspect. Adaptable, I think, is maybe the next area. And this one individual was a mechanic, became the business operations leader, became the program manager to move all the equipment initially, and then to get it into a new building. All of those things just, we would have management reviews in our system, and things just went well. I mean, they were just, there was lots of questions, lots of issues, but in general, this person was able to do that. In one of my future assignments on airplane development, I brought this person up from Utah to the Puget Sound, and probably spent a year assignment up there. And based on what this person knew of all of fabrication, because he had experienced so much of that, he was able to help me with all the engineers designing new stuff where they could go see. And so that's being adaptable, I think.
Interesting. So meeting those challenges head on, like it didn't dissuade them. They may be daunting, but they were going to move through them.
Yeah, great attitude. I think and one of the areas is for a strong link is standards, holding to standards, and not just themselves, but can they hold the organization to standards? And that's hard to do.
I can imagine.
Really hard to do.
Okay, a classic aviation question. I'm going to interject for a second. Okay, are you this is a kind of an obvious question, I'm assuming, right? Given your
well, maybe.
Are you a P-51 Mustang guy or a Spitfire guy? What would you say?
P-51.
P-51, of course, right? Clearly. Okay, I can understand. It's a very relatable answer. But yes, always have to ask anyone in aviation that question.
Yeah.
There are some diehard Spitfire members,
Yep.
which I love.
Yep.
They're amazing as well. What was your why? And maybe it changed over time, but what kept you focused? You knew very early on you wanted to pursue to the highest levels of leadership, senior executive, that mattered to you. But what kept you motivated and defined that why? And why did that matter to you?
Well, it still does, I guess. Maybe incorporate a larger story, but I'll make sure I get back to answering this. I have developed my own professional development methodology.
Okay.
Certainly used a lot from Boeing. Boeing had a leadership center, and I learned a lot there. One of the phrases I learned there, and I still incorporate to this day, is accelerate your readiness.
Okay.
And so that's always been really important to me. And so I've continued to develop this methodology for leadership growth, which is essentially, understand your current situation. And the situation changes every year. But just understand that. Understand your future state, your target, strategy, and then what's the gap?
Right.
What's the proposal to get there? I always have had in that future state this vision of, just me being a senior executive, senior leader, leading large organizations. I think you have to trade all of that with your personal value. I call them relative success factors.
Okay.
So relationships, do I have influence in an organization? Could be my commute.
Sure.
Right? What am I going to trade? Certainly it's family. And then, money is always there as well. And so I always want to compare and contrast where I am on that journey. Am I holding to my values?
Right.
And so I was always able, I just have a wonderful team at home, my wife and family. They've always been really supportive, and they tell me when I'm off the track. That's my why, I guess. I just keep pushing that to reach that longer-term strategy.
What I'm curious about is, over that 36-year career, did you see this approach enable particular changes over time, right? Like you're looking at 3 years ahead, your current state, and where you'd like to be in 3 years. And did you find this approach that you've crafted and optimized for yourself, did it work? Did it give you those milestones? That's the test.
First of all, sorry to get into frameworks. I know we want to go, but I'm a one-trick pony, I think, in pictures, and that's how it comes out. Two different philosophies. One is you have this career target, and then you're marching all the way there. That never happens, right? It's variable.
Right.
And the other philosophy is, hey, I'm just going to do my best, and people will put me in the jobs they need to go in. And I know a friend certainly that's done that and done very well. I had this at least path.
Right.
I call it kind of the engineering vector, right? It's got a direction, and it's got a number. It's got to it.
Right.
And that direction is that way, and the number is I'm going to push this hard. Back to my relative success factors. How am I going to push that? And sometimes it's more force, sometimes it's a little bit less force. But then there's, organizational issues, which, I certainly would have wanted to be, and I thought I was an executive pretty fast, but there's organizational issues. We combined operations engineering and engineering at one point. Operations used to report to the factory, kind of, and then there was engineering. When we did all the engineers together, there's a whole new leadership structure. So that delayed my time. So it's just something I had to go figure out. And then I used kind of to get to that next stage, what do I need to learn? What relationships do I need to build? And then what experiences do I need to have to get to that spot? So when, you got a whole new organization, I got a whole lot more to learn. I got a lot of new people to go build relationships with and new experiences to go have.
So it sounds like it was less or so hitting the milestones on your journey, but more so realizing at every turn to reassess, to keep reassessing and stay on track.
Yeah. If there's at least a yearly reassessment, if not,
If not more times. Yeah,
not daily.
When it comes to, you mentioned I think it was your production management system, or in essence, the way your teams executed, and that was a strong competency. If I were to ask, it's a little unfair, but I'll ask, what would your biggest, execution hack that you found from these different sites? We're going to have members that are senior managers, project managers, senior leaders in aerospace. And from your experience, were there any, really important execution type hacks that you found moved the needle more so than others?
I think yes. At what level? If I look at, I think kind of the factory floor level,
right,
which I think is the most important. That's where value is made. That's where things happen. I used to say nothing happens in my office, right? It's on the floor. It's on the floor. Right. So lean methodologies, and just let's say the daily stand-up, 15 minutes every day, is an engaged team with all of their support mechanisms, supply chain, safety, HR, whatever, there. And are they talking about, people and safety first? So there could be an engaged safety focal. Not necessarily the manager, but is somebody on the team aware of any incidences yesterday and tips, or how do you fix those?
Right.
Quality. What quality issues do we have? So they're now looking at yesterday's business. Anything, did we deliver everything that we're supposed to deliver yesterday?
Right.
So just kind of those key lean board metrics, that is the best hack.
Right.
And it's so hard to do.
I completely agree. It's something that occurs literally every day, multiple times at the start of a shift. But I think what you're really emphasizing is ownership versus lip service, for example.
Absolutely. And I've seen them both. And you know, where it's ownership is where I've seen progress.
Right. And I'm curious from a cultural perspective, that check and balance where the leader has to step in to drive ownership versus lip service. Was that something you had to do often? And I'm curious if you were able to enable mutual accountability. So you weren't the one stepping in, but you built the culture where the team was holding them accountable. Like, that's ideally the end state.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, of course.
There were areas that were successful
Right.
without me, and other areas not successful with me.
Sure.
But if you're demonstrating the standard and you're expecting the standard, it usually works.
Right.
Yeah. But there are times where if you give lip service to that standard and you don't show up to the meetings or not, people are going to see.
And that's what trickles down towards everyone else. Okay. Let's talk about burnout. Very common theme, especially in aerospace. We announced. Goes back to your very first comment. Aerospace is not for the faint of heart. Yeah. It speaks to my experience too. I've shared. I had experience within the military and aerospace. Aerospace was the only time I've seen a senior manager have to walk around with a heart rate monitor because of the stress they were under, compared to my time in defense. Right? Like it is absolutely the thing. So
I've had my trips in the wagon to get my heart checked. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Right. And so burnout is absolutely a factor. And I'll talk about, let's call it teams first. You know, pushing well into the night or weeks at a time to get key milestones. How did you lead teams through burnout and mitigate it? There's obviously a safety factor to that too. How did you face burnout?
Usually capable. There's a time or two where it was just not well.
Right.
One particular time block, probably a year or more. A lot of things coming at the team. This tanker coming through for one. Right. The new 737 MAX coming through for another. There's a rate discussion. Right. There's only call it a few tankers compared to ultimately where you're trying to get to 30, 38, whatever maxes. So which one do you focus on? Because they're both behind plan.
Right.
But just kind of focusing on the larger issue. When you have just chaos, chaos consumes capacity.
Right.
And you don't get time to do the positive things or call it risk mitigation or even opportunity search because you're working on issues. And I will, personal, I like to do hard things when it's voluntary.
Right.
So that you're kind of used to hard things when it's maybe not voluntary. So
right.
Taking the stairs, working out. I still work out 7 days a week. When I was working, it was 6 days a week, but it was also during the week at 4 a.m. So,
just to touch on that, you're saying while you were working, you were working out 6 days a week?
Yeah.
And at what position title were you at that point, let's say?
I was a senior director.
Senior director.
Yeah.
And that's, it's impressive, first of all, 6 days a week, right? Like that's,
well,
It's a
4
lot.
a.m. and it's gonna, it's not long. It's high intensity, but it's hard.
It is hard, yeah. I think this touches on something we talked about earlier, but again, it's building resilience through driving what's conscious into the unconscious. So at some point, this is part of your habits and routines, and you attribute your ability to face those tougher times with increased resilience that way.
Until you can't.
Until you can't. Yeah.
And so, I was working with the team and driving the team, but there was just everybody knew it was just not going well. And I remember, frankly, being on the treadmill one morning, and I never stopped. I mean, until it's time to stop.
Sure.
I had just had enough. I mean, I remember I just didn't feel right. It was kind of numb. It's like, I'm done. I stopped the treadmill and got off and kind of went to work, and it was hard to come out of. I don't know that I shined. I don't know that I was a very good leader. But what got me out of that was, because I still, of course, tried to, show good leadership.
Of course.
What got me out of that was hanging out with the team that was trying to do all this work, and back to relationships and empathy, they would apologize to me.
Oh, wow.
They felt bad because they weren't making their delivery, and they knew that it was quality issues. There was engineers right there redesigning and fixing, and I thought, you shouldn't feel bad for this.
Right.
And so, well, maybe I'm just wallowing in my little sorrow, because I'd go to meetings and just, it wasn't pretty.
Of course.
You know how aviation meetings can be. And frankly, a lot of the time I was not even at the meetings. I sent my other leaders there so I could go focus on what I thought were bigger issues.
Right.
And I just knew I had to get out of that. So showing up in a different way, caring more, assigning different leaders, more leaders, just putting more resources there, trying to get the chaos out of the daily attributes. And then just, make those people know that it's not their fault.
Right.
They're helping.
Certainly looking at your career, 36 years, looking back, would you do anything differently? And how do you take those lessons going forward?
I think you'd always do something differently. I hate to answer that necessarily, so it's not easy to just say no, but there's always more people that you could have got to know and take care of. When I'm mentoring people, I leave them with, here's my 10 things that I think helped me in my career. And the last one, frankly, is you can never have enough people in your court.
Okay.
Life is more about addition than subtraction. And as much as I want to accelerate people's readiness now and mentor them, I probably should have had a few more mentors.
Okay.
And I had some great ones, don't get me wrong. Of course, they come and go.
Right.
And so I think, later in my career, Boeing was having a challenge, and I had great roles. How much did I want to push? How much did I want to go get that next role, that next mentor? And I probably could have pushed harder.
Okay. It's insightful, certainly. I like that one of the attributes is tying back to that human component again, because that speaks to that core value, being able to drive meaning and impact, sustainable impact with those you've encountered, which were obviously key to your success. So if I were to even ask you, to those listening that value the idea of being the strong link, when they want to be that person where I asked you, where their director comes up to them on their shoulder and says, this is what you embody to me, and that this is how grateful we are for what you're doing for the organization, for the team, and for me. What advice would you have to someone that wants to be that strong link to their organization or their team?
You've asked me a couple times, what's your why?
Right.
So, back to my model, my visual model. What is it that is their relative success factors? And does being a strong link in this organization fit into the larger journey of their long-term strategy?
Right.
And they need to be honest with themselves, right? I mean, if that's what they want to be, and that's what they want, great. And then, what is it, short-term, medium-term, long-term, that you need to get educated on?
Right.
Who can help you build those relationships and drive to have those experiences however you can?
Right. So is it part of their relative success factors? Is it in line with their core values and beliefs? Look at the current state, look at the ideal state you want to get to, and close that gap. So I think that's really empowering. Now, if I were to ask you from an organizational leader perspective, you have members that are leading departments, work centers, business units, and they want to set the conditions for their members to be those strong links and let them thrive. What advice would you give to a department or business unit leader who has that vision and would like to unlock those members in their teams?
Have a system. Something I'll also leave them with is have a system. There's a management system, and hopefully it's part of the corporate culture or corporate plan. Toyota is very, very good at this. And when I say that, they do their strategy deployment. And then we talked about obey it earlier. So do you understand, the leader of the organization, how you fit into the enterprise plan?
Right.
It's pretty easy from an airplane perspective, or a horizontal stabilizer to an airplane program to commercial to the corporate. So do you understand that? And do you understand who the key players are to make all that happen? And then what are all those tasks? So have your system, have your plan, and it's got to be active, it's got to be proactive, it's got to be passionate and managed very well, down to the details, right? And then go find those strong links, because they're there.
So really that active searching approach.
Every organization that I've gone into, it's apparent in not too long time who those strong links are, and go engage them. And you got to engage everybody, but they're the change makers probably too, and they can go help and accelerate that next phase.
Right, so. Accelerate their readiness as well. Interesting. Top 2 books you suggest? What would you say?
Let's see. I'm just starting this journey, but it's kind of the Stoic philosophy meditations. So I wish I'd have discovered that a long time ago, I think. And I know it gives more questions than answers, but I think that's valuable, is to have those
It's interesting.
discussions and questions.
You're the second business leader I've met that's mentioned diving into Stoicism. Yeah. It's interesting.
I think it fits very well into the manufacturing world. Number one, it's not about being heroic. Now, there's a hero's journey, I think, but it's not about last minute heroics to whatever, win a battle or build an airplane or anything. And then there's another discussion in there about you cannot learn that which you think you already know. And I just think that's amazing, thinking about production systems.
Right.
So anyway, there's one book.
Okay.
And just timely, let's see, maybe two more.
Okay,
I read a book called Psychology of Money.
Okay.
Very good. And currently, I haven't quite finished it yet, but it's Younger Next Year.
Younger Next Year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? I'm not even sure. What's that about? What's Younger Next Year about? Is it a mindset or a mentality focus?
It's both.
Okay.
And it's he's got 7 rules.
Okay.
First rule is work out essentially cardio-wise.
Sure.
4 times a week and lift weights twice a week. So
Okay.
there's 6 days. So I'm good there.
There you go.
But there's other things in there too. But it's a discussion about are you active enough to heal because of your activity?
Right.
So if you're not active, you're decaying.
Right.
If you're active, you generate proteins and other
Sure.
things that will heal.
Right.
So it's a great discussion about the more active you are, your health is going to be better longer term.
Sounds clearly a good book
Yeah.
for resilience. That's fantastic.
True.
Of course. Yeah. So I'd like to end on, we started this interview and this journey sharing a mutual image that really shaped your career and shaped mine, which was the space shuttle on the back of a 747. And like I said, I'm convinced that image shaped the lives in aerospace of a generation. When you think about Boeing going forward, what would your hopes be for the future of Boeing?
We at each of I'm the chair of the Weber State University's President's National Advisory Council. We bring students in and have a half-hour discussion with those students. Best part of the whole meeting. And I say this to them. I also say this to, in my executive in residence, everybody I'm mentoring. And it applies, I think, to the Boeing company, is there is no bigger fan, no bigger support person than me for the Boeing. I'm as big a support person as anybody else.
Of course.
It shaped me, it sustained me, it motivated me, inspired me for 32 years. However, I also have high expectations of them. So, great people there.
Of course.
They need to stick to their plan. I'm encouraged with the new CEO.
Right.
A lot of the changes, a lot of the personnel. There's a large debt burden that needs to be fixed. There's great defense opportunities. The new F-47 is exciting.
Of course, yeah.
They need, at the right time, I understand the issues to have a new commercial product.
Right.
When we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that next one was going to be, it's probably different than what we thought it was going to be 4 years ago. But they gotta find that. So
Okay.
I'm encouraged, but I have high expectations.
Of course. I can't thank you enough, Craig, taking the time. This has been a wonderful discussion, and I'm certain it's going to resonate with especially anyone who's ever came close to aviation or aerospace. So, again, thank you so much for taking the time. It's a genuine pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank you, Sean. My pleasure.
No problem.